Welcome to the shop. And I thought I had an image in my head of how I wanted to make this segment. And it turns out that people who talk about things that don't know what they're talking about are annoying. And rather than walk you through the whole conversion process of this Sato engine, I thought I would just talk about the lessons that I learned. Okay, so the reality is that the instructions provided by Adrian at CH Ignition are they're very good instructions. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse there. They're very thorough. They're very comprehensive. They're easy to follow, and I'm not gonna be that guy. First time I've ever done this, so I'm not gonna walk you through the process and pretend to know what I'm talking about and what I'm doing. The first thing that I have to say is that I was kind of rushing through things because it is very straightforward, and so I had to eventually slow myself down because I had done the conversion, and then I went to go fire up the engine, and well, let me back up a second here. So I had done the whole conversion of the engine, right? And so that involves first putting on the timing ring, as well as the pickup for the ignition system. Okay, so that's just a ring with a magnet on it that goes on the prop hub. All right, so I had done that, and then I had moved on to change out the carburetor because the kit comes with a Walbro carburetor, as well as an extension tube to give some additional spacing, and there's a bracket to support the carburetor, etc., so that vibration and stuff helps keep it secure. Anyway, so I had done all of that and then realized that I didn't read all of the instructions. So because of the shape of the Walbro carburetor, the motor mount that I have on this plane will not work. The motor mount that is required is all aluminum. I have an old like a ring with post style, and that just, yeah, when you do these kinds of conversions, you're going to run into that ergonomics, fitment issues, right? So I could have gone to town and hogged out some of that ring to make it fit, but then I was like, no, because then I end up having to modify the firewall because I'm going to eat into a screw, and I can put another screw in here in its place. And it was going to be a big, huge thing, and I thought, just not worth it yet. Let's learn how this engine thing works before I end up cutting up this plane. So backing up, then I took off the carburetor, put on the old carburetor for the glow fuel, and just put the engine back on and thought, okay, so this kit comes as a conversion for gas, but you can also do a conversion to just run pretty much any fuel you want. So spark should make glow fuel burn, right? So I thought I'll just do a CDI ignition for now, and that way I can have a whole lot easier starting sequence. So yeah, put it all back together and realized that I was off a little bit on my instructions. Going back to what I said earlier, I was getting comfortable with things, and so when I had put on the timing ring and I did the timing, I was a little bit off, okay? I was off by like 10 degrees, something like that. So I wasn't getting the spark at the right time, which was causing basically what's it called? Backfire. Yeah, I was getting fire back through the carburetor. All right, not a good thing. So I took it off, started going through the whole process all over again, more carefully, slowing myself down. We're dialed. Now, here's the big thing that I learned first. The CDI ignitions that come with model airplane engines are primarily for 2-stroke applications. This is a 4-stroke engine. So it makes sense that there will be 2 sparks for every full 700 and something degrees, 720 degrees of rotation. Okay, so that includes your firing on the compression stroke as well as the exhaust stroke. Okay, so as you have exhaust come out, there's going to be a spark. And what that does is it essentially helps burn excess fuel and oil. So it ends up being a little bit smokier than you're maybe used to. So I took that as a sign that, hey, there's a lot of smoke. Maybe I need to lean this out just because we've got maybe more efficient burning of fuel. So I ended up tuning the engine again. I did lean it out a little bit. So then yesterday, I took the plane flying at my friend's house. He's got a nice big property where I can fly. It was great fun. And went to fly and ended up not having a whole lot of power. Like I was getting to my full RPM on the ground, but once everything unloaded in the air, I didn't have nearly as much power as I had before. And I think it's because I messed with that tuning. So the PT is back on the bench, just temporarily. I did do some tuning at the field, just because I wanted to get back in the air. It's just a matter of adjusting the needle valve through that hole. But I did want to go over that there's a different starting sequence as well. That's another thing that I learned. So before, I was having to bounce the prop backwards, right? On Glow, you bounce these Sato engines, you bounce the prop backwards, and it sort of kicks the prop in this direction, and it goes through the power stroke, okay? So on the CDI Ignition now, it's very different where you just flip through the power stroke. You have to flip through because that's where the ignition is. And so you have to flip through in order to get the ignition when you're under compression in order to power things up, right? So normally, under Glow application, you would do the choke and you would have the Glow igniter off and you'd cycle through several times to prime the system. But this is just like any other application now. So you have the choke on full, which is the choke out, right? That's choke in. So choke out. And so we're fully choked, and you just flip until it's going to pop off. That means you're fully primed. And then you put the choke back in and then flip until it's going to bark off. And you do that with a little bit elevated throttle. I'm like little less than a quarter throttle when I start up. I'm still learning the idiosyncrasies of this, but it is something worth noting that is different. Yeah. Now, the other thing that was a good reminder for me, you'd think that after all these years of doing models and learning a lot of the same lessons that I would remember the lessons, but I am not beyond reproach here. So, went to go fly after retuning. I was satisfied with back where I was essentially before and how the engine sounded and was smoking before. So I went to take off. I was doing my usual checks, and that includes checking all my control surfaces. And I noticed that the wings, one of the servos was having an issue. And I thought, that's really weird because I replaced both of those servos this week. So I replaced both servos, and one of the servos was having problems centering. And that usually means that you've got a bad potentiometer. But I checked these servos very extensively before putting them in this plane because I care about it a lot. And servos were fine. And so here I am trying to figure out what's going on at the field, and then it dawns on me. Old plane and old servo extensions. Okay, so there is a thing there is a thing in servo extensions where the extension does go bad. It's not necessarily the extension itself, but a lot of the times it's just simply the connector. Uh, the connectors can go bad. It's not necessarily that they get corroded, but there's something that happens in my experience where the signal gets a little bit wonky or incomplete. So I'm going to go through every single extension. I've got extensions coming off the receiver, little short ones that are like 8-10 inches, just for ease of connecting the ailerons in when I'm plugging in the wing. But I've also got the extensions that are in the wing that I messed with when I replaced the servos. So I'm going to check all of that stuff, and I've got wire, loads and loads of it, and crimps and everything to redo the extension. So that is not a problem. I just should have taken the time to check it. Specifically, it was on the right side. And it's funny because it was doing that same behavior when I first got the model and thought, oh, it must just be a bad pot. I'll replace the servos and we'll be right. And turns out it's not the pot. So lessons learned all around. And it's just a reminder that even though you learn something in the hobby, you're not beyond having to relearn it. Okay. So in addition to the fun with the PT-19 behind the scenes, I've been working on stuff for my friend. Big project. I'll put a little screenshot in here for you guys, but yeah, big project for my friend who is ill, and we're still working on it, and we're still having fun together, and doing fun things in the hobby, doing fun things. So enjoy your flying season and continue to work on your flying works of art.